Well, hello, my friends. How are y'all doing after Christmas? You doing all right? We took just a short little break right after Christmas to rest and recover from all of the craziness. And we are jumping right back into gear for Miss Aladon's birthday. I took a day off. I got my last Vlogmas video up and took that entire day off from everything except making sure people were eating and playing and cuddling with the kids, playing with their new toys, resting, spent some time with some family. Then by the next day, I was ready to get all of the Christmas gifts and presents organized and rooms sorted. So that is what we are getting started with before we jump into birthday celebrations for little Miss Aladon. I am trying to get all of the Christmas presents put away, the bedrooms organized, and the house pulled back together before we have some company visiting. Usually for Christmas, I'm getting a slew of kitchen things, and this Christmas was no different, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I love these mason cash bowls. I have a white one in a different size and print, I guess you would, design. And so this year I asked for a few of this in the meadow design, and I got one of the small ones. I hope to collect this whole collection of this specific design. Then I also received a cast iron waffle maker, which I am very excited to try out. I'm getting it in for a good wash and seasoning before I try that out. But that is just two things that I already had in the kitchen. Now on to sorting the rest. We had a ton of Christmas gifts this year. We are very thankful, but it took me a little bit to get it all sorted. I got a couple of things for the kids' room. I got several cute little tea towels, some recipe cards, a wooden spoon for the kitchen that has Elizabeth's Kitchen written on it, the square tube pan and spatula from Old Country Kitchenware. If you have not heard of them, or if you do not follow them on Facebook or are in the Facebook group, I highly, highly recommend Old Country Kitchenware. And the Facebook group is something Old Country Recipes or something like that. But I highly recommend it. She is recreating vintage kitchenware, and you can purchase it through them. And so I got the square cake pan and the spatula. I got a little charcuterie board set kit. I got the blue bonnet, the new blue bonnet Atwood's cowboy boots from my husband. All kinds of stuff. So it was very exciting this Christmas. We got tons of candy, sewing stuff, all of the goodies to have some fun with now that we are in the depths of winter, even though it's not super cold here. It was almost 70 degrees today, and it is just not cold, but that's okay. We're going to move forward because we will have cold days. They come and they go, and so I have all of the fun things to piddle with until spring comes around and the flowers start blooming and it is time to start seeds. Until then, we will have all of the goodies to piddle around with and create in this little old country home of mine. Now, would you look at all of those tomatoes? We have a local place just down the road from us that does food giveaways regularly. We go to them, not all the time, but a lot of times. And this is like the second time this year that they have given away all of these tomatoes. And it's not income-based or anything. They just get so much. They take them to all of the local like convenience stores around us. The food banks all come and get them. The churches are full of them. We brought back loads of tomatoes and cucumbers and bell peppers for us, a couple of families around us, some neighbors, just anyone that we could think of that could use or would use some of this food so it didn't just sit out there and go bad. Now, at the same time, I had been asking Isla Dawn what she wanted for her birthday supper. I always let the kids pick, which obviously Jack's not old enough, but the past few years I've let her pick what she wants and then the flavor of cake that she wants. And so she chose noodles, is what she said. She wanted buttered noodles. Then she decided she wanted sauce. So with all of these tomatoes, I could not go out and buy sauce. So we are going to get started roasting some tomatoes to make some. Of course, after a sweet little baby break, this little boy was getting sleepy and needed some cuddle time with mama and then some crackers. Now back to these tomatoes. What I like to do, and the bell peppers, I guess, the same way, is freeze or roast to get the skins off. So if I freeze them, the skins just fall right off once they're thawed out. Today, I didn't have enough time for that. So I went ahead and threw all of this in the oven so that it could roast and I would be able to pull the skins off before I started cooking them down. I have tried to make tomato sauce or pasta sauce, spaghetti sauce with the skins on, and I just don't prefer it. So we're going to go this route. This is actually the first time I've ever had a super successful, completely fresh from scratch spaghetti sauce. Here, girls! Chick, 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 chick! I let these sit in the oven after I turned the oven off and kind of cool in there while the oven cooled and then pulled them out. And there was so much steam in this oven, but pulling these skins off was so stinking easy. And so roasting or freezing, that is the only way. I guess too, you could cook it down and then use a food mill. I don't have a food mill. Maybe I'll get one soon because it would also help when I do apples every year. Now, if y'all remember a while back, we a couple of times have gotten several loads of apples, a ton of apples. And I actually had them not too long ago and shared that here. But that is where these tomatoes come from. So we get stuff from them all the time because they are just trying to get this food out the door to people who can use it before it goes bad. And the people around here just go and get it. Everyone ends up with tomatoes and apples, and it is so wonderful. But I'm getting those tomatoes and onions and bell peppers in the slow cooker, and I am slow cooking that with the lid off to try and cook out some of that liquid. While I have that going, this was a very busy day because I had a lot of prep for her little birthday party. We are getting her cake going. So I told y'all that I always let her pick her cake. And last year and this year are the years that she's really picked her cake because she's been old enough. Last year she chose strawberry cake she wanted lots of icing on it. And so I did icing. I tried to do like a vintage inspired cake. Well, this year she wanted sprinkle cake, funfetti on the inside. And then she wanted strawberry icing. There always has to be strawberry something because she is obsessed with strawberry. And so I did a strawberry icing, but I tried Brenda Gant's recipe in one of her cookbooks. I can't remember which cookbook it is, but for her layer cake from a cake mix. And while it was very good, the flavor was good, I'm not impressed with it. And so I'm not going to share really what I did here because I wouldn't recommend this. To me, it was no different than if you just made a cake from scratch. You add self-rising flour, buttermilk, eggs, oil, water, all of this to a cake mix. And it just basically bulks up the cake mix, which is fine. there was nothing wrong with that, but I just kind of think a cake mix is meant to be a shortcut to something and a quicker way to do it, and this wasn't. At this point, I was basically making a cake from scratch by adding the flour and all of the extra salt and sugar and things that you had to add. It was just the same as making a cake. So if you like that, that's fine. I have doctored up cake mixes before where you swap out of the eggs, the oil, and the liquid. You swap those things out. I think that's fine. This was just a little more work than that. And so at that point, I think you should just make a cake from scratch. But it turned out wonderful regardless. I added extra sprinkles because it is her 4th birthday and she deserves extra sprinkles. And got those in the oven to bake. Now, while both of those things were going, I got started on the frosting. Now, Brenda Gant's recipe for buttercream is very, very good. I usually alter it. So it calls for 1.5 sticks of butter, 1/4 cup of shortening. You can just do all butter if you'd rather, or use lard in place of that shortening, whatever you want to do. And then I always eyeball the powdered sugar and whatever liquid component. So she calls for heavy cream. If I'm doing a vanilla, I will do regular heavy cream, but this day she wanted strawberry. My go-to for both cakes and icing is to flavor them with jam, if it's a fruit flavor, obviously. So I added 1/2 cup to a cup of strawberry preserves into this icing. It was perfect. It gives the color that you want. It gives the flavor that you want. So there is a tip if you want flavored icing. I also do this in my cakes. I will replace some of the liquid with a jam. Now, you can't do all of it that way. You just want enough to give the right flavor and the right color. She wanted a candy themed cake. That's what she told me at first. And then she ended up changing her mind, but that's okay. So we did the funfetti sprinkles that she wanted, the strawberry icing. And my plan was to cover the cake decoratively with soft peppermint sticks, different flavored marshmallows, lollipops, anything Candyland themed. And she is such a big candy eater, like most kids, that I really thought she would love all of those things. She likes the more old-fashioned-y, like the Candyland theme, rather than just like Reese's and random candy. So that is the direction we went. I had hard candies out to do, and so I went very simple on the icing because it was going to have all that candy on it. And so I am just coating this with a regular old spoon. I'm not getting fancy. I'm not really leveling anything or smoothing anything too much. We are just going for that old country classic homemade cake look. I did put sprinkles right on the top because I was planning to do some decorative candy around it, and so that would kind of lock that in. And so I went ahead and added those before I put this in the fridge, and it sat up. So I got her cake done that night, and then I wanted to go ahead and get the pasta sauce done as well. I wanted everything done so that the next day when we were preparing for her party, I could just heat stuff up, cook the noodles, decorate the cake, and finish tidying up the house real quick because we did have church that day. So I used my immersion blender, broke it, but that's okay. I got it blended first to just blend everything into a nice pasta sauce. Now you'll see I have a second cake, and I did a gluten-free cake mix as well for my parents so that they could have cake when they came. What do you have? Then off to church we went. Jack took a nap in the nursery, as we spend most of our church days in the nursery at this age, and that is okay. He doesn't always nap, so Mama soaked that in. Now, this little girl decided she wanted to decorate her cake, and when she came over to where we were, I was asking my husband, what do you think about putting this candy on here? Like, what do you think we should do? And she came over and she was like, I don't want candy on it. I was like, okay, well, that ruins everything. I didn't put any decorative icing on this. I didn't have any made up. I didn't have the time to make any. And so I had some strawberries in the fridge. While she was putting her candles on, I grabbed those strawberries. I was like, what about strawberries? Would you want strawberries on it? And of course, she was excited for that. So, classic strawberries on the cake, just like I did last year. Some candles on the cake, and gave this a little homemade country cake some vintage flair. You know, they used to do those, they're called like Lambeth cakes or something like that, and they would do all this fancy piping, and they'd always have like fruit on top, like cherries or strawberries sticking up. So I guess that's the look we're going for. If I had thought that that's what she would have wanted, which I should have known, I know her better, but I would have done some decorative icing on here, but that's okay. I added a little velvety bow or a satin bow and made this cake look somewhat cute despite the craziness of the icing. One of our pastor's wives, she does all these real crafty things. And so one of the things that she does is like balloon arches with the fun balloons. And I showed these in one of my Vlogmas videos for our kids program. She had this set up, and I told her that Ala was doing like a Candyland theme. She was like, she can have those balloons. Ala wanted them. So we have these gigantic like gingerbread man, gingerbread house, candy cane, peppermint candy balloons all over the house now, and Ala and Jack had a blast with them. I found the wrapping paper and the plates at Hobby Lobby that were Candyland themed, so I just covered the table in that. Very simple. We don't do extravagant parties, but I wanted to do a little more than, just have her grandparents come over and have a little cake. So we got a gingerbread house. We had the balloons. Family came over. So it's kind of a middle-level party. Not crazy fancy, but enough that it felt special and more than just supper and cake to our little Aladon. And I think it turned out pretty darn cute. I've worked with Glurk on this channel a few times, and I've shared the kids getting their bikes. And so when all these holidays were coming around, one of her family members got her the Glurk streamers for the side of her bike, a new bell that has a big old flower on it that's so cute. And then Isla has an obsession with baby dolls and American Girl dolls, so we had to get the doll seat. And so to add to her Glurk bike, one of her family members bought her all the accessories to go on. We ended this little birthday bash by cutting into some cake, having some ice cream, and then decorating a gingerbread house.